Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre, and today we're trying something a little different. We're actually doing quite a visual experience. You may be listening to the podcast, and if you do so, then there will be a link somewhere to the video that we're shooting because we're streaming from Second Life. I figured that
Second Life Live.
Oh, somebody's talking off camera. Wait a minute. I'm turning the camera around. I was going all secretive. So I'm here, of course, with Jo Yardley at some sort of sim of hers. Hi, Jo.
Hello.
And where are we right now?
We are now in the time travel laboratory.
Aha.
This is the center of the new sim of Time Portal.
I'm just going to hide the interface real quick. So we're on the Time Portal sim, and we're going to attempt today to do a podcast where we essentially have the streaming component. So we have to describe what we see. If people listen to this podcast while they're working out at the gym, which I hear most of our 5 listeners, about 90% of our 5 listeners do that. They listen to this one.
That go to the gym?
Yes, I think they work at the gym. So they listen to the podcast. So that's right. They get a discount because they're like us, overweight and living in our mom's basement. I know I should speak for myself. But anyway, so we figured we're going to do all Second Life today. We're going to ignore everything that's happening outside in the VR world because I heard that from some listeners that they really don't care what's happening with Oculus, and I really don't blame them. So the name of this show is called Last Sim Standing. Of course, that's a provocative title, but it is in the light of the recent announcement that a whole bunch of sims are not doing so well, may disappear, and some actually have disappeared. Yeah. Including the University of Western Australia, which got 1-year extension, but also it was just recently announced that In Silico, one of my favorite sims, is disappearing. While all this is happening, Jo, you are purchasing a sim, and we're standing at the entrance. Why the hell did you do this, and why did you think there was a market for what you're doing? And we're going to explore what you're doing in a second, but explain how did you come to the suicidal decision to invest in Second Life?
Well, I'm Dutch.
But I hear the Dutch are very frugal and crap.
Yes, exactly. So I've managed to run 1920s Berlin almost from day one without losing too much money. It's been paying for itself. It's even making a little profit. So I thought maybe I can try and do that again. And instead of building another time travel sort of a historical sim, I decided why not build 6 historical sims in one. So it's I'm a little bit careful here. But it's also because when we used to be right next to another shopping mall sort of sim, where you could buy lots of lovely vintage stuff, but that sim vanished as well. And me and my friends, we were suddenly, some of us were without our shops, like Sonata Morales was suddenly left without her main store, which was pretty horrific. I was left without my flagship store, and there were a few friends as well who said suddenly they didn't have a shop anymore. So I thought, you know what, let's go and risk it. We all need a new place for our shops, and people who come to 1920s Berlin really enjoy, shopping as well, and they want to perhaps put on something else than one of our freebies. So I thought, why not? And I had a few ideas, and people were very excited about the ideas, and so we just went ahead and did it.
Great. So this is all about shopping. That's awesome. Wow. And I thought it was about culture.
Not just.
Hold on, Joe. Before we continue, we need to also, like I said, people may be listening to this just on the audio version, so they don't know what we're talking about or where we are. They can, of course, switch to the YouTube video at any point in time. But let's describe where we are. I mean, we are basically, this is sort of the spawn point, the starting point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you were to describe it, what do we see?
This is like a laboratory built in by some sort of crazy genius who managed to build time portals into other times and places. So we've got a bunch of strange, complicated machines, and in the walls around us are these mysterious, massive portals, massive, huge, rotating rings of pure gold that create a hole through time and space. But there's something wrong because the monitors above these portals show an error message, and the year that you're going to, it keeps changing all the time. So there's, you're not going to an exact year. You're going to some sort of zone where several years have been strangely combined.
So I would go into this machine in the middle. Is that the deal? Here's like, what is this?
No, that's where you arrive.
Ah, that's where I arrive, right.
These portals, those are the time machines. That's the hole that you go through and end up in a different time.
Okay, so in one I see some sort of brownstone. What do I see here? Oh, I see cars. They kind of remind me of the 50s, maybe? No?
Well, we've got two time zones, and if you look at the clock above them...
Oh, I see
monitor,
at the clock,
they'll tell you where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is switching all the time. Like, this reminds me of a film. I know, Joe, you're not so familiar with the decade of the 80s and the 70s. Oops, where did she go? She's still here? Oh, there she is.
Over here.
This reminds me of a movie. These flipping displays of the years. So this one goes between 1927, 1936, 41. Then there's this other one, 57. Ever heard of this movie, Back to the Future?
Yes, I have.
But don't you hate the 80s? But you hate the 80s.
I hate the 80s, but I love some of the movies. If you look behind you, there's a flux capacitor on the wall.
A flux capacitor? Here is a flux capacitor on the wall. Oh, my good Lord.
How else can you get your time machine to work?
Right.
And there's a few other little clues hidden all around the sim, in connection to famous time travel movies and books and things like that.
Right. The best book, of course, is H.G. Wells' The Time Machine.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's the mother of all time travel stories.
It is. Yeah. Well, we've got one of those machines as well. Very well hidden.
You mean this desk?
No. H.G. Wells' Time Machine looks completely different.
I don't know how... Well, yeah, but
It's very well described in a book. I thought you read books.
You caught me. I do read books.
But just not very well.
I never said that I read them cover to cover.
You just put them on the shelf
to
impress visitors.
I know that it was described as some sort of a vehicle where you sit down and then you pull this lever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very comfortable chair with rings around it and things like that. So
you're saying we might actually encounter this machine somewhere where we're going?
No, because we left it back in the Victorian zone, and that machine isn't working yet.
So right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 portals, and 2 seem to be open. Oh, wait a minute. Here is one, a small portal.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of.
We're gonna have a few small portals that will teleport you directly to a historical sim elsewhere.
Ah.
We're picking a few very nice ones. I'm not telling you which ones yet.
A partner sim.
But yes, anyone who goes to this time machine laboratory will be able to travel to our time zones, as we call them, but also to some of the best historical themed sims in Second Life.
The last couple of shows we were, of course, speculating about Sansar and stuff like that, and people don't know what's happening in Sansar, and people are speculating based on snapshots. And I ask this question all the time. Obviously, we don't know when Sansar will open, when it will be functional, how functional will it be, and all that kind of stuff.
When they let us in.
Right. So let's just say basically what you're doing here is that also maybe sort of going against the stream of people, because I hear it all the time, like, oh my God, Sansar's coming, I'm going to stop investing in putting money in and work or both into Second Life.
If as far as I can see, it's going to be at least another year, probably 2, 3, even more, before I can do anything like what I do in Second Life in Sansar. And until then, I still want to have lots of fun and just do what I want to do. And even if tomorrow Sansar suddenly opens early, and I can do every single thing I can do in Second Life, then all this is just experience.
Right.
It's just going to prepare me for Sansar. So I don't consider anything I do in Second Life a waste of money, because, it's entertainment. And you watch television, and, you watch all the VHS videos I bought when I was younger and watched. I then replaced them by CD-ROMs and things like DVDs and things like that. So, but I was entertained. Doesn't mean, I was wasting my time.
I also would like to add, because the current VR coverage, and that's a criticism we always get at the podcast, is that we cover basically tech specs and stuff like that, and while that is important, it's not everything. I couldn't agree more, because what really counts is the story and the way we tell stories, and thankfully that has not yet been automated, or maybe at some point AIs will get to a point where they generate stories and the visuals and everything sort of automatically, but right now we need to tell the stories ourselves in whatever medium, and that of course is a transferable skill. If you run a sim, if you make a film, or in any way, other shape or form. So folks, don't sit there, procrastinate, make something. Okay, before we delve into this portal, let me just put the word out. Let me do a quick housekeeping, and then also put the fact that we're streaming onto the other social realms. You guys are listening or watching the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. We're at the Time Portal Sim, and we would like to thank our sponsors. One of them is the Time Portal Sim.
Well, hey.
And that's how we're going to play it from now on. So if you sponsor us, we're going to give you a 1-hour infomercial for free, but you're going to pay. No, of course not. We're not doing we're not doing infomercials. So you can contact us, and you can get information about how to support the show. We go live every Saturday now on Stitcher. You can subscribe on Stitcher. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can send us a message. You can send us news scoops. And as we mentioned earlier, this broadcast, this show is called Last Sim Standing, and that's of course a provocative title, commenting on some of the losses that we had to suffer. Do you know any other sims that closed down? I mean, we have In Silico is reportedly going away. We had University of Western Australia 1-year extension.
Mm-hmm. Well, non specifically, but I was, when I'm while I'm preparing for this sim, I have to go out into the world and look for for people who create wonderful stuff. And I think that this happens to most people in Second Life who go out outside a bit more than I do. But so many of my landmarks are empty, which is sad.
And what's the if you could? I mean, of course, that stuff is never really. You can't really compare why some stuff survives. Yeah, no, go ahead.
But on the other hand, there were also 2 creators in Second Life who were making 1950s stuff, who had sort of left Second Life, and when I found them, they told me they were just about to come back again. So that was really interesting, and they're getting all excited again. So that's
So that's 50s themed or 50s also
yes, 1950s and 60s themed shopkeepers, creators. That scene seemed like it was a little bit dead in Second Life. I couldn't find many really cool 50s Sims anymore, and I really looked. And there were just one or two, and I really used to enjoy those, because that's one of the few places I go to in Second Life besides 1920s, because when I was a teenager in the 80s and 90s, I was a rockabilly myself. So, I still feel that love for that era. And there was very little in Second Life, so I'm really glad that we now got this 50s zone here.
Rockabilly really is also something where I think, and that's interesting because a guy working here at the local store, I was just talking to him about the local rockabilly scene, and he says all those clubs are closing down, and we do have sometimes bands come through, but it's so little, and sometimes the bands don't stop in town because there's too little audience. And I go like, dude, Second Life, go online and be part of a global sort of rockabilly scene, and maybe people can play live and stuff like that. All right, so we're live, and I was going to mention that Mont Saint-Michel is, of course, also a sim that closed down. Yeah, and people have been complaining, or people have been mentioning that it seems fairly random that Linden Lab is seemingly supporting random sims and helps them. I actually couldn't think of
random.
One. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, do you know of anyone that they actually actively rescued? Because University of Western Australia, that's a private thing.
Liner.
Oh, that's right.
That one. They saved that one 2 years ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
And there are now 2 sims that have vanished or are about to vanish that I would absolutely put right up there, or even above the cruise liner. So.
Yeah.
I don't know who at Linden Lab decides these things, but I hope they're listening, and I hope that they're realizing that here are 2 sims, Mont Saint-Michel and In Silico, that both are quite essential and quite important, I reckon. If there's any money left in the tip jar of Linden Lab,
I would say, guys, if you're listening to this and you know a sim that's closing, or if you have a sim that's closing, contact Mambo Moraine in Second Life, Phil Toma in real life, who worked with me on the last Drax Files in 360, and go in there. And I'm going to contact Mambo as soon as we're getting off this broadcast to go into In Silico this weekend and film 360 In Silico and just put it out there. And I think that would be... We should really start, maybe people can chip in, and we could just rescue the Sims in a sense for prosperity.
They didn't want any more fundraising or donations, because they tried that before and they didn't feel really comfortable about it. And the way the things are going now, they'd have to go and do all that again in a year, or maybe in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So the only solution for them would be, I reckon, if suddenly everyone wanted to go live there and open shops there, because I'm assuming that's their main source of income.
That's right. No, I also meant maybe
or Linden Lab just stepping up.
In Silico, I would say, is something that Linden Lab should definitely support. I was thinking Mambo Moraine needs a little bit of monies to justify his time to filming the 360, because the post-production is really still labor-intensive. So maybe for like a half-hour broadcast, you might need 7 to 8 hours stitching this together. So like if we just do like a fly-through in Silico, it could be an entire day in post-production for that. But let's walk through the portal here. So we have 2 portals that seem to be active, and of course the tiny portal is a partner sim, and I of course know which one that is. I mean, you got to be really dumb. Come on, everybody knows what that is.
Which one is it then?
No, I'm not going to say. Let's let the listeners decide. Actually, listeners, if you don't watch this now, then you can't decide. But if you're watching the broadcast, then you know exactly what sim this is, don't you? What sim is this?
I doubt it. I doubt you know.
I do.
You don't.
I do. Okay, I'll say it is. Oh, maybe it's not the one I'm thinking, you think?
I'm sure it's not the one you think it is.
So it's not Pfaffenthal.
Nein.
It's not
But I will
Pfaffenthal?
be adding that. It's not. I will be adding that as well, though, if they allow me to.
So we can't teleport right now. It's kind of a little teaser where you pitch it to them, become a partner, so we can put you.
Well, actually, that's just the first setup for the one that's already on board.
Jo, what's also interesting, this is a completely random thought, but I had a Twitter conversation about some of my friends from the VR community was saying, like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a VR conference in VR without traveling physically? And I go like, whoa, there is a novel thought. We've never seen that before. Yes. And so, well, we should have the next Second Life community convention at the time portal. But let's go through the portal. Which portal we go through?
Yeah. Well, the one on the right goes to 1950s and 60s, and that one isn't yet finished. We're opening that on Saturday, so I'm not going to let you look around there yet.
Saturday, when we go to air, actually, and maybe if people catch this the following week, this might already be live.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through this one here.
Yeah, let's go to the 1920s, 30s, and 40s one.
I'll do that in mouse look, just for the occasion. So I go over here.
Just unlock it.
Oh, you have the key to the time portal.
Of course I do. Shh,
so what do we see? So we see a brownstone. Oh my God! And I see these waves coming, and now I'm walking through, and here I am. And I hear a train. Do I hear some jazz? No.
I don't think so.
We need jazz here, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a critic, but I am.
What do you mean you hear music outside? These people have manners. They're not going to play loud music at night.
Yeah, okay, you're right. This seems to be an evening situation here.
It is now. We've got a daylight setting that moves and changes.
Oh, that's right. We're taping this actually in the evening, our local time.
Yeah, but we've just got a regular day cycle, so it will change.
Awesome. And we're completely immersed in the 30s. So this is so what do we see? Can you explain to our listeners who don't are blind?
Well, we're walking through a street somewhere in America, probably New York. It is the 1920s, 30s, or 40s, because, the time machine has an error, so it sort of mixes things together.
And that's the thing to remember, listeners. So the time machine mixes things together. Right, yes. So it's not an accurate, in that sense, authentic representation of one particular year. It is, in a way, an artist's type of, what artists do is, through their lens, a collage of things of sorts.
Yeah, because that's also that made things a little bit easier for us. This is not a role-playing sim, although if you want to go on a role-play, go for it. People don't have to change their clothes. They can be unrealistic-looking avatars, such as yourself, or furries. But, we also want to have the freedom here that we do not have in 1920s Berlin, where you can have a 1940s fashion show one day and a 1920s fashion show the other day, or you can have a 1920s party and then the other day a USO World War II themed, party with all sorts of things. We want to have a little bit more freedom here, and also it allows, of course, our shopkeepers to sell things for more than one era.
And I, of course, see posters of the famous flaperettes. I know Dora Duchamp personally quite well.
Doesn't everyone?
Right,
yeah.
Dora, very, very sort of a persona that is a famous person in that scene. So the flaperettes, they play shows here, I suppose.
Yeah, I hope so. We've got a theatre for them, and we're going to invite them, and they're looking forward to it. So that's going to be fun. We also, a couple of days ago, opened a Chinese backstreet sort of nightclub.
Oh, that's what we just passed here, right?
Yes, we just walked past there. Yeah, that was really nice. With
And
with Shanghai Lily performing on stage.
So you know what? This is almost like it's almost a little bit. You know what this reminds me of? This newfangled thing called virtual reality, where you feel a sense of presence, where you feel kind of immersed. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of the purpose of this thing? This is awesome, Joe. I love it. So now we're in this back alley Chinese nightclub. And here's a lonely microphone on stage for any type of shows, or maybe stand-up comedy, Chinese stand-up comedy maybe. The mood is very somber. I hear a little bit of
this is a really
single notes.
Chinatown Backstreet Club. And we had a really great party a few days ago with Shanghai Lily and people dancing and things like that.
Who's Shanghai Lily?
Have you gone mute?
Oh. I got muted.
You lost your voice.
I lost my voice. Hold on, guys. I lost my voice. I
can't hear you, Drax.
Voice.
Not sure if you're talking.
I know.
Oh, you poor thing. Well, finally. I have the show all to myself. I see a white dot above your head.
Keep talking. Okay, let's see if we're still live
Go
here.
on, try again. Or we could just go outside. It's probably a parcel thing. Modern technology, people. See, we didn't have these problems in the 30s.
Right, there was no voice. Nobody had a voice in the 30s. Here we go. Yeah, that was an issue of the parcel. I was still, my voice was still heard on the stream, but not in world.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. You're right. In the 30s, 40s, there was no problem with voice because the minorities didn't have one, including the Chinese. All right, let's go over here.
Yes, this is our big club. This is the Calendar Club.
The Calendar Club looks very familiar to this. This lettering reminds me of the Cotton Club.
No, they had a different kind.
They
the
did?
Original one, anyway.
Good. And we see a whole bunch of cars out here. Is this all? This amazes me still with SL. I mean, we're in here, and I'm assuming these cars are they pre-made? Are they pre-made cars?
No, these are mesh.
They look absolutely fantastic.
Aren't they great? Yeah, the two ladies who made these cars are also selling them in the sim.
Yeah.
And I love them. I mean, these are the light versions, but if you get the full version, you can open the hood, you can open the doors, you can look at the engine. It's a perfect detail. Dashboard is fantastic.
Let's go into the club. While we're looking at this, for our listeners, here we go. Finally some music here.
The viewers probably saw it.
I'll turn it down a little bit. So here you got shows and everything. Are you going to rent these out too? I mean, we were just talking about In Silico, and In Silico also, to my knowledge, In Silico is going away. To my knowledge, they sustain themselves through renting shops and renting to, well, renters. I mean, what is the plan to keep this thing afloat?
Well, the main financial part of this sim will be rent from the shopkeepers and from tenants, because there are also a few apartments here and there. Mm-hmm. But clubs like these, for instance, this one here, people who we know, we invite to organize events here, and they can do that for free. Mm-hmm. So if we know of a cool 1920s, 30s, 40s DJ, or someone want to organize a party, we welcome them here to organize an event.
Somebody is coming in, and his name is Arden Schwartzman. I've heard that name before. He has a picker-upper.
Hello.
Hello, Arduin. Here's Arduin Schwartzman, and we didn't plan this. From Warbach. Hey, Arduin. So what do you think?
Did I walk into something?
Yes, you walked into a live broadcast, for God's sakes.
Oh. Oops.
No, this is great. No, welcome.
I was only going to show me my brand new pussy grabber.
Ew.
Jesus Christ.
Can I grab yours?
If you come near me with that thing, I'll shoot you.
Oh no, I'll grab Drax's pussy.
Oh, he doesn't mind.
This is Joe. This is a prime example of.
There, I got it.
So this is something you have to watch the broadcast for. Our listeners on the audio stream only, they won't enjoy this as much as we do, because Arduin had sort of a picker-upper, where people that have a hard time sort of picking stuff up from the floor, like an extended picker-upper with a mechanism that they can operate the claw from, and he was threatening to grab my you-know-what, as Donald Trump says, and there was a cat now in this thing. Now, but Joe, you said earlier, and this is interesting, Arduin is certainly no griefer. He's a good friend of ours. He's also always making the fabulous thumbnails to this show, among many other things. But now, you had very strict rules with 1920s Berlin.
Yeah.
And you just said that here you don't have them. So you have relaxed clothing rules, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There are pretty much only 3 rules that we have. Is that don't be naked, don't be a Nazi, and don't be a pain in the backside. Just don't bother other people.
Now here's the thing, and we had that with Insilico as well. There was an issue when Insilico was taken offline because there was issues involving the original owner from Insilico and a dispute. I don't want to go into it. There's plenty of information out there. But how are you planning to deal with griefers? And we talk about this a lot on the show, because I think we agree that the new VR crowd may be a little bit naive when they're building open worlds, how to actually deal with that issue. How are you planning to deal with it here on this?
Well, we're going to do it the same way as we have been doing for the last 7 years in 1920s Berlin. And that's, we have a bunch of admins, and we have people just looking around, and if someone reports it, we'll deal with it. And most of the time, some of us are online anyway, keeping an eye on things, and if need be, we come and boot people into the next decennium. So
you have to, but it's an effort that you need manpower for it, right? This cannot be automated.
No, you can't, because there's no way for any kind of computer system that we've got in Second Life to know if someone is misbehaving. We don't have some sort of device that says the second someone starts shooting guns, they get ejected and kicked or whatever. Since Arduin appeared out of nowhere, let me ask him a question. Arduin, you don't know this yet, that this show, when it comes Saturday on the podcast, is going to be named The Last Sim Standing, because we've been talking in the context of some of these other Sims disappearing. What is the... Like Insilico. Right. That I read, yeah. And Mont Saint-Michel and University of Western Australia has lost some funding through the university. They have another year. What should Linden Lab do? What should the owner do? Do you have any magic bullets that you can shoot off at us? How to solve this bleeding? I don't know if it's bleeding or just a healthy turnover of old technology being replaced by new, because they were pretty old places already, I think, and I'm not, especially Mont Saint-Michel was all based on old prims. It's sort of it's a monumental thing, that's for sure. So in other words, you're advocating, like, if you come, let's say, to my hometown of Munich and the Frauenkirche, for example, you go there and like, oh my God, that shit's old. Let's tear it down and build a Planet Hollywood on top of it. Is that what you're saying? Well, yeah. Well, it depends a bit. Those things have to be maintained too, right? And that costs money. And eventually, if the general public loses interest, you know,
I think we're doing pretty good here in Europe, maintaining old buildings. Anyway, you should go to Japan. They don't value old stuff at all. They just tear everything down.
Or America.
In America, to a certain
extent. I don't know. Well, yeah.
They're learning at the moment. Yeah. Slowly, but to a decade or...
I guess so. My sort of nonsensical, cynical comparison between the real world and the digital world. I was just thinking maybe there should be some sort of a preservation society that somehow preserves Sims. But I mean, it goes towards the fact that but the running costs, the way Linden Lab handles the costs, are just huge.
Well, there could be some sort of council of monuments, virtual monuments, that could be partially sponsored by Linden Lab, of course, but also by people just donating. And every year they can perhaps pick a sim, or they can have a couple of sims that they decide to keep as they are. For old time's sake.
Yeah, and I would. So you'd have to have some sort of fund for that too.
Yes, and I think that I think Linden Lab should decide to adopt, maybe every year adopt one or something like that, or maybe just the ones that need adopting.
Hallmarks.
Yeah, because these Sims, they're not just fun and we don't have nice memories of them, but they are. Even at this old age, Mont Saint-Michel is still a stunning-looking sim. It's still one of those
even with old technology.
Yeah,
sure.
And it impresses visitors, and it gives Second Life good publicity.
But there is cultural value to it. I mean that's sort of where my comment, and you're right, Arduin. I mean, different countries in the world, they deal with stuff differently. I just came back today actually from a tour through all these castles like Neuschwanstein. We were in Würzburg Palace. We were in Rothenburg.
There's a Neuschwanstein in Second Life too?
No, and actually Markus Breuer, who was on the show, he informed me that he built a Neuschwanstein back in I think 2006. It's long gone. I don't think there is one currently. If you want to look real quick, that'd be great. But Fam Nutra, aka Markus Breuer in real life, said that his was long gone. So it's amazing when you see these castles in real life, and I think we have to look at the digital world in the same way. You know what? We should contact archive.org. Archive.org.
Yeah, maybe.
Is from.
Maybe we could download them.
Yeah.
But it's
concerning
not
just concerning these landmarks that may be worthwhile preserving on the one hand, and the overhead costs for them on the other. There's a lot of empty and unused land out there, especially mainland. They're all Sims and they're all up and running, but there's no one visiting them, or they're just bloody ugly, and a combination thereof. And I'm just wondering whether Linden Lab could weed out some of the unused stuff that's all running and rattling and consuming energy.
That's a good idea.
All for nothing, and trade it in to use those resources for these landmarks.
There are absolutely Sims out there that are completely abandoned by their owners, and these are probably people who don't even realize that they're still paying tier, or they're one of those early people who joined up and got land for free.
Yeah, so on the one hand you've got these beautiful things that disappear, and on the other hand there's a lot of ugly stuff out there that's sitting there all for nothing.
But of course, part of the responsibility is also with the people who run it, because if an idiot like me can do it, you'd expect sometimes I can't see how things go for other Sims. I don't know what their problems are, of course, but there are so many other ways. For instance, Patreon, is that how you spell it?
Patreon, or Patreon, or Patreon, yes.
Patreon, yes. Ade Sid just mentioned that in the chat of the video. And I started a supporters idea in my sim where people have these, they pay and they get a few extra Sims, extra prims to use in their apartment, and have these websites. I mean, I remember, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a sim that was about to vanish, and I decided to go check it out, and there wasn't even a tip sign at the entrance, and as far as I can remember, every sim has a tip donation sign at the entrance. This is our tier, help us pay. They didn't have a website. They weren't on Facebook. They weren't on Twitter. And sometimes you can't help thinking, what have they done themselves to try and, make this place work?
Yeah. Then you can't help them in that regard. Absolutely.
No, I mean, just building it won't help, won't make it a success.
But let me, because we're on this subject, it's so fascinating, then let me read the statement from the In Silico blog, because In Silico, to me, again, I mean, you mentioned it's old. Yeah, it was built 2007, 2008, but it's still, in its immersiveness, it is just absolutely stunning. I mean, I want to see the VR crowd with their, very high quality render engines create something with that impact that In Silico has, where the visual, call it inconsistencies or whatever, or lower res render restrictions, they don't have the impact on the enjoyment, right? I mean, that's at least my opinion. And then a lot of stuff that is super visual eye candy just really doesn't have the impact. Let me read from the In Silico website the announcement that they call here Fade to Black. In Silico had a tough road ahead of itself after the loss of Skills and a 2-week lockout. Skills Hacks is, of course, the founder of In Silico and the main account holder in the sense that he is on the account, and when he was locked out, he or she, that of course caused some issues because the renters also pay him and all that kind of stuff. While we were able to float on generosity, that cushion has run out. Sadly, our primary source of income have never fully recovered. It's not any one thing but a combination of losses that have slowly eroded away. Malls are drying up, Skills sales are disappearing, fewer long-term residential rentals. Suffice it to say that there has been a growing shortfall, and up until now we've been making up the difference out of pocket. The shortage this month will be substantial, and unfortunately we're not in position to keep covering the difference. And Abius, who is posting this, goes on to say that they were the choice was between downsizing or closing it all together, and after a lot of discussion, soul searching, we opted for the latter, basically close it down. It's a hard choice for us, he goes on to say, and not one that we've come to lightly, even though it might be possible to survive as just two sims. The technical aspects of that were daunting. So he closes in, perhaps as a sign of the times, the state of things in general, or our age and reputation have brought us to this point. Maybe we should have dropped a couple of reasons from the start. We have chosen to come to a close with In Silico. And as I said in my previous goodbye love letter to In Silico during the lockout, we have had some good times, even some great times. 9 years worth of stories that will continue. I couldn't ask for anything more than that as a legacy. So they are closing November 17th, and he says, please no donation. So I want to add, and then I want to get your take on it. And it's interesting, the show develops. We wanted to visit your beautiful sim, but now we're talking about we're talking about the demise of everything. Isn't this also an issue of just an overwhelming abundance of choices how to spend your time online? I mean, I guess Arden mentioned it as, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like a natural readjustment, kind of. Is that the deal here? And how will that impact Sansar? And it's not even open yet. Maybe there will be no interest.
But it is just like with television shows. There comes a time when it's run its course, and it can still be as good as it was during the first episode. But people, they've been watching it for 7 seasons, and they think, right, okay, I'm going to move on. I want to do something else. So sometimes the story just ends.
It's a bit like Fawlty Towers or the Young Ones. I mean, if they would have gone on for seasons more, they wouldn't be as legendary
anymore. They could have done a few more seasons.
Yeah, but I would but I would argue. I mean, this is not a bad comparison, but I would argue this is a place where you can write your own stories, and I think the stories are as fresh. I mean, it's a physical place where there is no. You're not forced to adopt any type of story. You can kind of.
Well, you are in my sim. See, that I can only look at things from my perspective, and I've got a sim that we have a very narrow subject. We've chosen a country, we've chosen a city, we've even chosen a year. For the last 7 years, we've been reliving 1929. So people have very little freedom. They have to be realistic. They have to dress a certain way, but still they keep coming. I can't get rid of them. We've got people living in this place who've been here for 7 years, since day one almost. So it is very difficult, and I think that's different for every single sim, to find out what makes it go, what is the thing that makes it work. And I think in my sim it is pure the community of people that, you know, they've been living here and they still enjoy after years coming to the local pub and meeting their friends and having a chat, because, you know, we don't have battles, we don't have exciting things to fly around to and then shoot at each other. There's you know, it is a very regular daily life that we recreate, and yet somehow it really works.
So you're talking about, of course, you have a very micro niche that is successful, but I also want to talk about, because it just occurred to me, and interestingly enough, the next Drax Files that I'm started to work on right now is to a large extent about the event phenomenon. So the event phenomenon in Second Life is, what I mean by phenomenon is that a lot of the sales of items are happening during events. The arcade, Collaborate, I mean, there is any number of them, and a lot of people have complained that you cannot survive. People don't visit the stores anymore, even very successful brands, but they actually go to these events and then they shop until they drop. So in this blog post from the In Silico website by Abius, he says that the sales are drying up, and In Silico was not all about sales. There was a big mall, which was very cool, of course, catering to that kind of cyberpunk genre, but including other stuff. But obviously, I was going to just, you know, maybe this also has to do with the proliferation of this event stuff. What do you think, Arden? Do you know about this event stuff? Are you a shopper?
I know some events. I go to, you know, to get a new outfit once in a while. But
like just now?
You mean like the arcade or the men's department or?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for men, there's not much around relatively compared to women's outfits, so there's little choice for me, so I keep track of a few things.
You guys really don't go out much. You don't even know about the gacha phenomenon. That's insane. People make money on secondary.
I've even made gachas for the arcade for several seasons.
We are planning one for Time Portal.
And there's people who make money on the secondary market of gacha. But do you guys think, like, I mean, is that something that you've heard, or that you think that really the normal, quote unquote, normal business of Second Life has really suffered from these events, and that you just can't make a living anymore with an old-fashioned shop?
I don't know. I mean, if I want something, the first place I look is Marketplace, and it's not, you know, and if I can see the object I'm buying in World, I go and check it out. You know, I'm not going to a gacha sale or whatever you call it because I want something. I hate gachas, but sometimes I need something from them. So, you know,
they've got some great decorations. So.
Yeah, a few of the items here are from gachas or whatever. But yeah, it's you know, it's very complicated. I think that perhaps one of the problems is that people shopping has to be fun, and I think that if you're into vintage and retro, coming to a place like this, the shopping is part of your visit.
And
part
it's
of the
the
fun.
same with Insilico. It's with Insilico.
If you want science fiction stuff, that is the place to be, I reckon.
Oh, here's
got a nice rare gotcha here.
Okay, describe it for the people who are just listening to the audio version of this. What do you have in your hands now?
It's a rare gotcha that was for sale a few years ago. It's a little robot called Zerbert. It's a retro 80s toy, and you can press its belly. And it's going to make pull faces and make sounds.
Oh, you can press it. So,
and it can even be dangerous.
What do you guys think when we talk about the issues of Sims disappearing? What do we know about Sansar? The show is we have a few minutes left.
Very little.
I know we know nothing
about
Sansar.
Do they have Sims at all? Actually, is the Sansar have the same Sim concept as Second Life?
That is now the question.
6x2, 56 region.
That's now the question. And the question is, and we know a little bit from Ebbe Altberg, the CEO of Linden Lab, that land might actually be free. So if land is free and it's not an issue to have as much land as you want,
that's going to be really good for business, because
really
that way, of course, because if you have a shop, you can build a massive super mega store, and you can rest every single thing you've built. You create it, and people can go to your shop and actually see the stuff and buy it, and you don't need vendors and all these things. Which is going to make shopping a lot more fun. But on the other hand, creating these things may be a lot more difficult, because it's been getting more difficult in Second Life itself. So it's as
it's
technology
tricky, evolves.
But not having to pay rent for a shop is good, because that means you can have a big shop. But every time someone opens another sim and says, "Would you like a shop in my sim?" you can say, "Yeah, sure," because it will probably be very low rent, because they don't have to pay rent either.
Okay,
so there's no rents for land. What is the catch if you can get free land in
There's going
Sansar?
to be a tax on sales.
That's right. That's their revenue model.
Like marketplace.
Yes, Linden Labs' revenue model will be a tax on transactions. But now, will this also solve issues like Sims disappearing? Obviously, I think it will, because you don't have the pressure of this incredibly crazy high tier. The tier is.
Absolutely.
Remember the guy who ran for office, or was it mayor in New York City with the slogan, "The tier is too damn high"? No, he ran for president 4 years ago. No.
Well, I don't know.
Wait, I gotta look this up. The rent is too damn high.
The only reason I started this sim was because I could get a grandfathered region. If I had to pay full tier for this region, it would not have happened. So, being able to have an affordable land is extremely important. But, my shopkeepers still have to pay rent to make sure that this place can, survive.
All right. The rent is too damn high, since I mentioned it. We'll link it on the podcast. The Rent is Too Damn High is a political party active in the state of New York that has nominated the candidates for mayor of New York City 2005 and 2009. The leader is Jimmy McMillan. Yeah. The rent is too damn high.
Wasn't that Bloomberg?
No. No. It's there's some funny videos with Jimmy McMillan, the founder of the Rant is Too Damn High party, on YouTube. When you're done listening to the broadcast, you can listen to that. We have a few minutes left, and Arden completely distracted us, and we completely changed. Michelle Lecron is on our podcast. On our live stream. Right, you see me on the map. Michelle Lecron, who abandoned us for high fidelity, is watching us on the YouTube screen. Hi, Michelle. Let's look at the rest of the sim, Joe, and then wrap up the podcast and the live stream. Arjun, you may follow us. You may learn something about the 40s.
I'll follow quietly, and I'll keep my robot shut up too.
Take the pussy grabber, just in case we encounter some street animal.
By the front door.
So where are we
There's
going,
another little...
Joe? Tell me.
Yeah. Just thought you'd like that little gadget there by the door.
Oh, is there a gadget by the door?
By the door. Look at here.
I'm looking. Oh,
Okay.
there's a hoverboard by the door.
There you go.
There is something
like
from the 80s. I love that.
Yeah. Because, you know, this is a place where time travelers hang out. And sometimes they forget something.
Yeah. Not an orange curtain from the 70s or some piece of plastic. It's too bad.
So as you can see, we've got some of the best historical creators in Second Life.
This is really cool.
Furniture, cars, everything. You know, we've been looking really hard for people who make fantastic stuff.
Keep talking because I have to change something in my
All right.
references. I just realized from the 360 project.
That you're wearing a massive face light.
No.
You
And
are,
again,
though.
people who are
So
just tuning in, contact Mambo Moraine and Ardo and Schwartzman built the camera. If you have a sim that is dying, Mambo Moraine may come in and shoot your sim in 360 to help us survive, at least on YouTube. So
Face lights are
go ahead,
Satan.
Joe.
Yeah, face lights are Satan. There, I've said it.
They made in 1971.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we got the
So as you
Schultz
can
Brothers store. Oh my God.
Yeah. What, you know him?
Yogi Schultz? Of course I
Yeah.
know him. He sponsored the
There you go,
podcast
you
for a
can-
month and then he didn't pay. Nah. Yogi's cool. He was like, what?
He is.
I'm sponsoring a podcast with 6 listeners? That's not a good investment.
Well, you know, we've got 8 on the video already. So.
So tell us a
But we're
little
on
bit.
video too.
We're everywhere. We're totally multimedia. We're in VR. We're on VR on VR. VR on video. VR on the radio. I cannot think that this is great. But, Joe, describe it for the people on the
Yeah,
radio.
anyway.
We have stores here. What are they selling?
These sell the best of vintage in Second Life. We've got fashion, we've got cars, we've got furniture, we've got some amazing stuff, and you know, we really looked everywhere. Sonata Morales, of course, has her flagship store here, which is amazing and very big.
Oops, let me.
You know,
What is
the best-
Sonata Morales making? What is she making again?
She is the most famous vintage fashion designer in Second Life. She makes stunning 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s outfits. Really, really amazing.
I'm camming around. I can't see the store.
And
Go
it's
there,
all the way
please.
at the vent.
Let's go there.
It's, you know, okay then, this way.
You know, Arjun,
Keep up.
it just occurred to me while we're talking about events and stuff like that. I think Joe, without admitting it, she basically built a stationary event. It's like a 24/7 event of awesome 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s vintage stuff. Maybe that's her
I
plan.
guess it is, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right, here we go. Let me see if the voice is activated in there.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, this is a nice department store. Is that?
Sonata Morales. She certainly moved up in the world. Here we are in front of Sonata Morales' flagship store. I mean, I can tell you, if you're just listening on the podcast and not seeing these visuals, I can tell you that the Macy's Day Parade this year on Thanksgiving will maybe have to be renamed to Sonata Morales Day Parade. I have very little frame rates here, but describe the store, Joe. Joe, describe the store, please, for our podcast listeners. What do we see? What are we getting? Joe, can you hear me? Joe can't hear me.
Oh.
No,
I
there's
did
an
see
issue
her
with the
voice open.
there's an issue with voice in the parcel.
I see that voice is disabled
now.
here.
Oh, here we go.
I can hear
No.
you. Joe,
Yes,
describe
yes,
the store.
Well, it's a massive Art Deco palace, And it sells, you can see here the most fantastic historical dresses. It is really superb. High fashion. There's a French word for it, but I forgot.
Haute couture or something?
That's the word. Haute couture, n'est-ce pas? J'ai vu, je peux t'en vu.
Yeah.
And, this is if you're in Second Life, especially if you're a woman and you want something vintage, this is where you go, because this is just amazing.
And you want something glamorous. I mean,
accessories, yes.
You're
yes,
listening.
Not for me. Someone as common,
Right,
barmaid.
a commoner barmaid. Listener, you're listening and watching the Drax Files infomercial hour. Now streaming live from Sonata Morales. You get dresses. You get what do you get? You get handbags. What else does she make? Shoes.
Hats.
Hats.
It is. You can get a complete outfit here. A wardrobe.
Now, did you mention earlier that your plan for the Time Portal sim is also events? Are you going to be doing things like you're doing with 1920s Berlin? And
absolutely.
And talk about that in the context of keeping a sim going, keeping it interesting and all that.
What I do is I find people who enjoy organizing these things, and then I let them use the place. Mm-hmm. They don't have to pay, and they can bring their own chip jars. So for them, it's very interesting because they can have fun and make a bit of money. Mm-hmm. And it brings people to the sim who hopefully also do a bit of shopping, take a landmark, and return.
Mm-hmm. Arjun just left us. He went to the men's clothier, Swank
shopping,
Brothers.
sorry.
No problem. Just don't grab anybody's you-know-what. And here it goes back. By the way, sorry, Joe, where do we go here? Because here it seems we didn't come from this direction, but here's another portal-looking thing. Yeah. Is that the way back?
Well, that time portal takes you to 1920s Berlin sim.
Oh, everything is connected, huh? Yeah.
Oh, DeLorean.
Yep,
yeah, there's a DeLorean. So everything is connected, so you have that connected. But then, of course, the rules still apply.
Don't go through it.
Of period just
there's
because...
no voice is not activated there.
Right. We're going to stay right here because this is the end of the broadcast, folks.
Okay.
We're over an hour. And this is a nice, beautiful... I'm going to actually take a photo of this very moody... scene. And folks, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Again, this has been a special, interesting experiment where we're basically streaming the podcast. We're streaming the podcast live on YouTube Gaming, and then because we're completely lazy, then we're going to put the unedited show on the podcast on Saturday. Actually, I am. No, but thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. And please leave your comments about specifically about what do you think about the sim closures. Do you have a magic bullet? Is this a natural shakeout? How will the advent of Sansar accelerate this shakeout, soften it? Let's discuss this in the comments. And next week we'll have a special guest about education in virtual worlds. So tune in for that one. It won't be exclusively about newfangled technology and hardware. It will be about the nuts and bolts of education. This is obviously a favorite topic of mine. And then the week after that, I can already tease that we're going to do an exclusive Drax Files from CoSpaces in Munich, which we briefly mentioned with Rob a couple weeks ago. CoSpaces is a virtual reality startup. They're building a world maker tool, which is very cool, very simple. Reminds me a lot of Second Life. Not as expansive and vast as of yet metaverse style, but it's a good start. So I'm actually visiting them in their headquarters, in their physical headquarters, and getting an exclusive tour. So that's that.
It's in Germany.
It is in Germany. Germany's
a BMW of virtual world.
You got it, Arduin. We not only make BMWs, we also make...
Okay, it's the Trabant.
So the next German Reich is going to be virtual, is it?
Heute Second Life, morgen das ganze Welt. Okay, have a great weekend, guys, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Time Portal, SL Artist, Warbug, 01 Heavy Industries Corporation, Hextraordinary Fine Magical Goods, Ionic, Maven Homes, Gizzo Creations, Strawberry Sing, Abranimations, Eros Avatars, The Cube Republic, What Next, Landscapes Unlimited, Bay Cities You Know for Kids, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Feroce SL, and Death Row Designs. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar, Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.